All right, so yesterday we talked about multiplying conjugates together in our video, but we really didn't have any of those problems on our homework assignment. So in this video, we're actually going to review everything for our quiz tomorrow, and then we're going to have an assignment that is about squaring conjugates or squaring binomials and multiplying conjugates together. So let's go ahead and get started with this review PowerPoint. So remember, one of the first things we talked about is classifying polynomials by their degree and their number of terms. And this is something you're going to need to know tomorrow when you take your quiz. For example, here we have a quadratic trinomial, quadratic because the degree is 2. Here we have another quadratic trinomial, degree is 2. It's trinomial because there's 1, 2, 3 terms. Same thing over here. 2 quadratic trinomials that we're adding together. And remember, we can add them together as long as the variables are the same. We're going to add like terms. So for example, 2x squared plus 3x squared is 5x squared. 5x's and negative 5x's, those cancel each other out. And a negative 4 and a negative 2, that is a negative 6. I am not foiling anything here because I'm adding. I'm not multiplying. And so my answer is just 5x squared minus 6. That is a quadratic. This is something you'll need to know tomorrow on your quiz. A quadratic binomial. All right, let's move on. Take a look at subtracting polynomials. And so let's just name these first. Here we have a cubic trinomial. Cubic because the degree is 3. Here's another cubic trinomial. Degree is 3. It's a trinomial because there's 3 terms here and there's 3 terms here. But this time we're subtracting. So there's like a negative 1 here. And so what we talked about doing here was this stays the same. We have 3x to the third minus 4x plus 7. But negative 1 times 5x to the third is negative 5x to the third. Negative 1 times positive 6x is negative 6x. And negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. So when I combine like terms, I have 3x to the third minus 5x to the third, which is negative 2x to the third. I have a negative 4x and a negative 6x, which is a negative 10x. And a positive 7 and a positive 4 is a positive 11. And this is a cubic trinomial. Cubic because it's a third degree polynomial and it has 3 terms, and so we call it a trinomial. So you're going to need to be able to add and subtract polynomials together and then also classify them by their degree and their number of terms. Then we multiplied a polynomial times a monomial. And if you remember right, we used the distributive property to do that. I'm going to take 3x squared times 5x squared. Well, the 3 times 5 is 15. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. Then when I take 3x squared times 6x, 3 times 6 is 18. And x squared times x is x to the 3rd. And then 3x squared times negative 7 is negative 21 x squared. And so I can't combine any of those because they're all different terms. And so my final answer is going to look like this. This is a quartic trinomial. Quartic because it's a 4th degree polynomial, and trinomial because there are 3 terms. Same time we were doing that, we started factoring the greatest common factor from a given polynomial. So the GCF stands for the greatest common factor. We're going to pull that out of a polynomial. So for example, what goes into 16, 12, and 8? Well, a 4 does. Then I have x to the 4th and x to the 3rd and an x squared. So this has 4x's, 3x's, and 2x's. They all have at least 2 of them. So I'm going to pull out what they have in common. They all have a 4 in common, and they all have 2 x's in common. So then I'm going to multiply the 4x times 3 things that when I multiply the 4x squared by them, I get the original 3 terms. So for example, 4x squared times 4x squared gives me 16x to the 4th. 4x squared times 3x gives me 12x to the 3rd. And 4x squared times negative 2 gives me a negative 8x squared. And so this is what it would look like once I factor out the GCF out of a polynomial. Another thing we talked about was the perimeter and the area of any given figure. So I'm going to go ahead and do the perimeter first. The perimeter is what you get when you add everything together. So for example, if this side is 3x minus 3, so is this side. If this is 2x squared plus 4x plus 3, then this side is as well. And so the perimeter is what you're going to get when you add everything together. So I can only add common terms together. So for example, I have the 2x squared and 2x squared. Well, that's 4x squareds. But then I have 4x and 4x, that's 8x. 3x and 3x is 6x. 8x and 6x is 14 x's. And then I have the plus 3 and plus 3 is positive 6. Negative 3 and negative 3 is negative 6. And a positive 6 and a negative 6 just cancel each other out. So the perimeter is just 4x squared plus 14x. Then, to get the area you can find by multiplying the length and the width together. So we're going to find the area here by taking this distance, which is 3x minus 3, and multiplying it times this distance, which is the 2x squared plus 4x plus 3. So now because I'm multiplying, I'm going to take 3x times 2x squared. That's 6x to the third. 3x times 4x is 12x squared. 3x times 3 is 9x. Then I'm going to multiply the negative 3 times the 2x squared, which is negative 6x squared. Negative 3 times 4x is negative 12x. And negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. So if I combine like terms, I'll have the 6x to the third. Then I have 12x squared minus 6x squared, which is 6x squared. I've got a 9x minus 12x, which is minus 3x, and then minus 9. And so the area of the figure is this polynomial. So hopefully we can remember the difference between how you find the area and how you find the perimeter of any figure. Then we multiplied conjugates together, and this is what a lot of your homework assignment is on for today. When we multiply conjugates together, I take x times x, which is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. 4 times x is positive 4x. And positive 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. So I will end up with x squared. These two terms cancel each other out, and it's minus 16. All right, and that is what we are working a lot on in our homework assignment. Let's just try these two on our own before we do our homework assignment. Here we have, you can pause your video and try it, and then make sure that you have these correct. I'm going to start by taking 3x times 3x, which is 9x squared. 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. 5x times 3x is positive 15x. And positive 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. So my final answer is going to be 9x squared minus 25, because my middle terms will cancel each other out. If we do number 8, x squared times x squared is actually x to the fourth. X squared times 6y, now this gets kind of weird, but it's going to be a 6x squared y. Then when I take negative 6y times x squared, I have negative 6. There's an x squared there and a y. And then negative 6y times positive 6y is going to be negative 36y squared. So if I combine my like terms, I have 1x to the fourth term. But these are like terms. 6xy minus 6xy, those cancel each other out. And I'm left with the minus 36y squared. And that's a lot of what our homework assignment is going to look like. Let's go ahead and work on that, and we will go over questions tomorrow right before we take our quiz. Good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow.